Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about the talented Mr. George Santos. Remember him? It's been a while. When we last checked in on the embattled congressman, he had been indicted in a very menacing looking indictment. I was predicting that he will eventually plead guilty to it and it will be his ouster from Congress. And now it's all sort of redoubled, if not more. There's a superseding indictment, 23 new counts against George Santos, and a guilty plea for some of the conduct in the indictment by his former campaign manager, who will surely be testifying against him. All right, basically 23 counts, but he did two things, you could say. He stole and he lied. The lies first. There are different ways in which you have to file these disclosure reports, and his earlier ones, and this comes out in the first indictment, were a tissue of lies. The guy is just a completely bold and inveterate liar. Why would he continue to do it and re-up on new lies? Because he needed to continue to present in his case, entirely false picture that he had money in the bank, partly so he could kind of, live the good life. That's part of what was going on with him. And partly so he could qualify for more money. So in particular, the RNC has a program that where they really pump some money into you and give you real attention. But first, to qualify for it, you have to show you've raised $250,000 on your own. No problem for the talented Mr. George Santos. He did a few things. One, he said he gave his campaign a large personal loan from himself. Total lie. At the time, he had like less than $10,000 in the bank, and it's that lie that his campaign manager or helper on this pleaded guilty to, and that he's looking at whole separate problems for. But then he didn't just have to. He also said that relatives had given him all these contributions, etc. God bless his family, sticking by him, notwithstanding all his problems. But that turned out to be a lie too. They hadn't done it all. It was just names he put down and available addresses. So those are the lies, and he does them to qualify for this Republican program, for which he qualifies. Second, he steals, and in particular, he steals identities and steals credit cards. It's here that Santos, who has a very long history, he didn't emerge out of nowhere as a criminal. He had a long history of two-bit criminal activity, including, by the way, down in Brazil, where he wrote bad checks, and he recently, agreed to pay all this money to get out of problems with that prosecution, and basically admitted to it. Well, here, he simply just takes credit cards that people give him to contribute and just charges them. What one guy listed in the indictment, not named, but identified by number 12. He just decided to run an extra 15,800 for supposedly the campaign. And then an additional 44,800. And by the way, he stole this money, and you could say committed identity theft in the process. And it didn't even all go into the campaign coffers. Part of it went because you're permitted in sometimes to use campaign contributions for personal expenses. For Santos, that always translates into lobster dinners and resort stays and the like. So he had some of that here. So he took some of that 44,000, about 11,000, just put it in his bank account, and then used it. So just take a step back. I'm a little bit tongue in cheek, but only a little. Almost all indictments against public officials involve some sort of quid pro quo of official favors in return for booty. You can think of the recent Menendez indictment of, giving concrete help, perhaps even involving the national security for, gold bars with serial numbers. Those cases, one, that's a sort of classic corruption by public officials. They also often run into proof difficulties because they always have available an argument along these lines. There wasn't a quid pro quo here. What I did is just what members of Congress do, or at least you've defined it so loosely, that it would ensnare a lot of lawful conduct. So I tried to get somebody a pardon, but that's what members of Congress do, et cetera. And those kinds of arguments, the Supreme Court has shown itself to be pretty darn open to in different cases. But this is just two-bit chiseling, just like a guy who's a credit card ring that steals your stuff and runs money. There's nothing to be said good about it. And it's just an outright steal. It's not like take theft under false pretenses. I'll help you out, as if anyone thinks George Santos has the actual, political juice to help anyone. So it's just really flat out and crass theft. The latest is that three members of his own party, the Republican Party, have initiated a motion to expel him from Congress. To do that, you would need a 2/3 vote. And, maybe it would be forthcoming. Maybe it won't. He says, Santos, for his part, first he said, I haven't heard anything about this. I haven't looked at my phone, haven't heard anything about my new 23 count indictment against myself. Now he says, I'm not resigning. I'm not going anywhere. I'm running for reelection. But take a step back. He has no money. He's always been a pauper, and he can't afford a solid defense, even if he had one. But there's not enough money in the world to buy a defense that gets Santos off of these charges. So it's always been my view that his clawing on to his office and trying to run for reelection is to have some kind of leverage with the party or possibly the Department of Justice because once he's out of Congress and once the jig is up on these totally bogus schemes to get money, he's naked in an open field, and there's nothing really left to do. So I think he's going to try as long as he can, but when it's really time to try as long as he can, stay in the process, run for reelection. It's a political call whether he possibly could win. Sure doesn't seem like it. He won by the skin of his teeth before, and he's much reviled now, as he should be in his district. But string it out as long as he can, because at a certain point it'll come to his being completely without resources and facing overwhelming charges, and really just having no choice, even if he could somehow come up with the hundreds of thousands of dollars, truthfully, because lawyers require actual money, not false promises or theft, to pay a lawyer. There's no getting him out of these charges. There's no fancy kind of speech or debate congressman just doing his job. And as I mentioned, he now has, for one of the acts here, a pretty bad one, involving a fraudulent $500,000 loan, he's got a witness who's pleaded guilty and is going to be testifying against him. He's in more than a world of hurt. He's finished. The question is when, and can he hold on to even into the election until the U.S. is ready to go forward with charges. But at that point, I just think he will have to fold his tent. Will they get the 2/3 necessary? It may well turn on Democrats. Do they, want to? And these are the kinds of raw political calculations that are hard to predict. We're seeing it now go on in the complete mess and scrum that is the Republican conference trying to replace Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. Anyway, will the Democrats vote to oust him, and can they get to 2/3? That would seal his fate pretty quickly. But basically, as I see it, the proof is overwhelming. The crimes are, revolting and crass and base. and he can't survive them. And it's just a matter of his trying to hold on as long as he can. So next step will be, is he expelled from Congress by his erstwhile colleagues? He already has an opponent in the race, and he'll go through the motions if trial doesn't begin in earnest. But once it does, and he's actually looking at foregoing whatever benefit he could get by pleading, I see him pleading. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.